What's going on, guys? Steve from Subimods here, and today we're joined by Sarah from AWE. And today we're going to be doing a facility tour and being shown how to make an exhaust.
Cool, let's get started. So we're going to start in the offices, a little bit of the boring side first. But if we're talking about where a product starts in the R&D process, it starts right here in the sales and marketing department. So when we get a product suggestion or we have something coming down the pipe that's really cool, like the WRX, we're going to research it in our marketing department first. We got to make sure that we can make something that's way better than stock and that adds a really cool element, otherwise we're not even going to do it. So now we get to the actual R&D part of the R&D. This is the engineering department. When we get a product that we know we're going to want to develop an exhaust or an intake or another part for, we'll bring in the stock vehicle, and then the engineering team will scan it with the arm in the back there, the Faro arm, so we can get a better idea of exactly how the factory one fits, whether it be an exhaust or intake or otherwise, and develop something that fits just as well but performs better. All right, now glasses on for this portion because we're going to check out where the actual magic happens. So here are our engineering lifts on this side. Right now we have the A6 here. This is actually coming in for a fit check just to make sure our finished product still fits exactly as intended. It's also going to get dynoed, so it has the factory exhaust on there right now. Then we'll swap the AWE version on and dyno it a second time. Super secret in the corner there, we have the Civic Si and the Civic Type R. They are right smack in the middle of R&D as we speak, so we can't take that close of a look. But what they're doing is physical prototyping. So where we're going to scan the car underneath for the beginning of engineering, this is the physical prototyping portion where we'll actually put the designed exhaust on the car, test out different versions, and make any adjustments as needed until we're happy with the finished product. Cool, so while we're back in the R&D space, we can actually check out one of our 180 technology resonators. This is the first time that 180 technology is incorporated on the WRX platform. This is not the exact resonator that's on the system, but it's a great example of what these guys do. Now they are a straight through resonator, meaning you can see all the way through. There's no packing material, but what makes them really cool is that there's strategic ports located inside here to cancel out drone frequencies. So when you're at wide open throttle, you still get all the performance and sound that you want, but when you're cruising, trying to have a conversation or listening to music, you can still enjoy the inside of your car. We can actually see a little bit of action because we have the Mark 8 GTI on the dyno. So once we have a finished prototype, whether it be an exhaust, we'll test that. For the intakes, we do something really cool. We have the technology to 3D print an intake. That way we can dyno test it with the 3D printed intake. We don't have to wait for the carbon to be made. We can figure out whether it makes power, whether it's a performance mod beforehand. Speaking of which, if it doesn't add performance, we don't make it. So we've called our dyno the moment of truth, and here's where the products get to prove themselves before we bring them to the market. We actually just finished dynoing the stock intake. Now we're going to install that 3D printed prototype, dyno it again, and see where we're at after the first iteration. All right, so that's a little sneak peek into our R&D process, and now we can get into how an exhaust is actually made once it's available.
All right, what's step one?
Well, step one would be the pipe delivery. We get our raw materials delivered at least once a day. That would be our T304L stainless that's US sourced, and it has a thicker wall thickness of about 0.065 inches, and that's one of the ways we develop that deep tone that everyone knows us for.
Now that that's over, what's step two?
Step two would be once we grab the piping off of the racks, it would make its way into our prep area. This is where we bend, cut, expand, slot all of the pipe and prep it for our weld section. You guys can check out the Crippa that's back in the corner there. That's the machine that could technically bend a pipe from start to finish all the way into an exhaust system. Obviously we can't ship it and it's difficult to install it like that, but that's one of the ways we achieve the really smooth bends to ensure we don't lose any power with the exhaust system. All right, so now we're moving into the prep section. Once the exhaust is cut down into the individual pick letter or bent, depending on which piece it is, it'll come in here where it gets deburred, slotted, expanded, etc. This is finishing up the prep section. This is a great example of pipes that have been completed through the prep section of our production. These are sitting on carts waiting to head over to weld. You can see they've already been bent, they've been cut into their respective lengths, and they actually even had the opening cut out with our robot Abby, which I'll show you guys in just a second.
What do the party cups mean?
The colors denote which day of the week it needs to be completed on, so we can make sure everything's moving through at a proper pace.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We're gonna try that.
It's cool. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but that's exactly what it is. So once the pieces are finished in prep, they'll move over to the production side into weld. This is another great spot we can check out. All of these particular pick letters, as we call them, are hanging out with the fixtures. Now these fixtures are made towards the end of the R&D process, and their purpose is so that we can put a piece of pipe in them and make them in the fixture to offer our perfect fitment guarantee. Now we're gonna head back and check out a few more of our more high-tech pieces of machinery. A human being is involved in 99.9% of production, but in certain situations where a precise cut is needed, we do utilize robots. This is our robot Abby here, and she does some of the more precise cutting. Some of the pipes we showed you earlier have cuts from Abby in them. We also have our CNC machine down the corner here. So not applicable to our Subaru models, but for some other models that have a valved exhaust, if someone wants to buy a track edition, which is essentially one of our straight piped offerings, they'll need a valve simulator, which we make here on our CNC machine.
Is that the only things you guys make on the CNC?
No, we make a lot of other things. I actually don't know what they're cutting right now, but we used to do strut bars that we make on there, end caps for intercoolers we used to make on there. So it's basically a great tool to utilize for different projects. For the most part, we'll CNC cut our valve simulators. We're going to etch our logo and the 180 technology logo onto these resonators. They'll go in that machine there, and that's also done in-house. So once the pieces make it through weld, they end up on QC, which is over here, and this is a great opportunity for our dedicated QC person to check each piece over, make sure it's made correctly, it's made accurately, and it just looks great in general before it heads out to the end customer. Once a piece passes QC, it'll hang out on these shelves either temporarily for pieces that move through really quickly, or maybe a little bit longer for systems that might not be in demand as much. We can take a look at all of these shelves where we house our currently fabricated pieces, and then we'll check where they head out the door. We can actually follow one of the systems that was recently picked heading over into packing. The box here is the tips, which is packed individually to make sure they arrive to you in flawless condition. And from here, it'll be moved into our packing portion where it'll head out the door. But we have a few packing stations here. From there, all of our pickers and packers have a list of what is supposed to be in the exhaust system. They'll check it over one more time, make sure everything looks good, everything is accounted for, and they'll pack it up in each box. My favorite part is watching them tuck it in and then shut the lid. It's cute. And then the final step, sealing up the box, putting on the label, and shipping it out this door right here. So from the start to finish, the system will come in that door as raw materials and leave out this door as a finished exhaust in box.
Well, that concludes our tour of AWE, led again by Sarah. It was a very great tour, and we saw their entire facility from start to finish, engineering, development, marketing. It was a very great and informative tour. One of my favorite takeaways from this is not only is everything handmade here in the United States, is that they are doing their part in actively trying to recycle and better benefit the entire earth. So this is a company that we entirely support, and we are very thankful to be here today.
Thanks for coming out, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having us and having all of our followers. So if you guys could like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know in the comments below what we can do next, we'd love to hear your ideas.